John Yates Beall, a rich Southern aristocrat, not yet 30 years of age, but burning for high exploits in war, found himself in manacles in Fort McHenry, his estimated $1 million fortune useless. His team of privateers, under an arm's-length support by Jefferson Davis, had been capturing, plundering, and even sinking at least one commercial vessel in the Chesapeake Bay before the Union blockade finally cracked down on him. But higher-ups in the Confederate administration pressured for his release after 6 months of confinement, after threatening to similarly confine captured Union soldiers. So John Beall was on the loose again, full of dreams of becoming another Colonel Mosby of the waves, but sadly lacking the necessary qualities of caution and cool judgment. An old childhood chum of Beall's was one of about 3,000 Confederate officers imprisoned in the desolate, cruel confines of Johnson Island on Lake Erie. It was 1864, September, and another winter of chilling winds blowing off the lakes and meager rations was looming for the prisoners. And John Beall had found his dream. Free them. A tricky business indeed, to free 3,000 officers from Johnson's Island, tricky even for Colonel Mosby. But the reports were that the captive officers already had worked out an escape plan if armed insurgents could capture or at least surround the island. So Beall, along with his rough and ready co-conspirator Jacob Thompson, who was in the Confederate Secret Service, a brawling, big-boned daredevil who would later govern Mississippi, and the mercurial Charles Cole, who was already becoming well known about Sandusky as a wealthy speculator and hardy animal. Cole was to wine and dine the officers of the Michigan, whose 14 guns guarded Jefferson Island. Cole already had raised eyebrows about town, saying that he'd like to buy the ship. Well, Cole was not a spy of great subtlety, but he seemed to be enjoying his lavish spy expense account a bit too much. Now, our hero, John Beall, once again rounded up a party of mercenaries in those parts without too much care as to who they were. And their plan was this. His party were to lie in wait near the Michigan while Cole partied with the ship's officers, whom he'd already befriended. At the signal of a flare or lit cigar from Cole, Beall and his band were to board the Michigan, take it over, train all the guns on Johnson's Island, and somehow demand the release of all the officers. Not a bad plan, right? That is, if you weren't listening. On the afternoon of September 19, 1864, Beall and his men jumped on board the Philo Parsons, a commercial vessel, and with a gun held at the temple of the first mate, young Beall said amid the gasps of lady passengers, "I am a Confederate officer. There are 30 of us well armed. I seize this boat and take you as a prisoner. You must pilot this boat as I direct you." And then for good measure he displayed his gun, "And here are the tools to make you." Yeah. Beall told the first mate to make a short trip and bring them alongside the Michigan. Of course, the clever first mate, sensing perhaps Beall was no seaman at all, convinced him that they needed to make a stop first for at least an hour to get more firewood. So, while the Philo Parsons was waiting in dock and getting firewood, young Beall, with a wandering eye, noticed another ship, the Island Queen, coming into dock next to them. So, of course, he ordered his men to capture that boat too. Now, was it any surprise that when John Bell, pulling 2 boats and 2 crews toward his rendezvous with a military vessel, that his men might have been having second thoughts about this venture, and even more specifically, their commander,